Even when I was traveling across the United States during the first film, I remember running into a few younger folks. And they loved the fact that I didn't have a broadcaster supporting us. They loved the fact that I didn't work for NBC. They loved that I was an all do-it-yourself kind of thing. Because I think the bullshit detector is on very high among that particular generation, right? And they don't want to be spun. They don't want the anchor speak. They want natural, transparent, authentic communication. And they're looking for whether you've been co-opted by some large organization. So it might be a mixture of entertainment and news, kind of like what we see with Jon Stewart, or it could be just in using the mediums or media that young people tend to gravitate to, which will be what primarily cell phones, text messaging, and that's about it, really, social networking, right? I think the problem is that news organizations, by their very nature, are meant to be destinations for information and journalism and news, and younger people don't consume or use information in that kind of centralized way. The information has to come to them. They have to be grazing. They have to be somewhere, and the little bits and pieces are there. The networks wish they could, but they don't speak the language that's going to reach them. So if you watch an evening newscast, even if I never watch an evening newscast, but you know, what are they advertising? Pharmaceuticals and adult diapers. So what does that tell you about their demographic, right? It's 60 plus almost. So even though they'd like younger people to come watch, they aren't coming. They might be catching a little bits and pieces online, but I don't know how much they can really speak to that. There's possibilities there. I think newspapers, I feel like newspapers are more multimedia in the way they approach things. I like what the New York Times is doing. I don't know. Well, in terms of their digital, their digital strategy seems to be getting to pay off in terms of blogs, in terms of their Twitter feeds, and especially in terms of multimedia. I think some of them get it. But how do you actually produce information that's relevant to young people and in a way that young people actually want to bring it in, right? So it might be a mixture of entertainment and news, kind of like what we see with Jon Stewart, or it could be just in using the mediums or media that young people tend to gravitate to, which will be what primarily cell phones, text messaging, and that's about it, really, social networking, right? That's the crucial point to all of this. I think young people get it from each other in terms of that they're very skeptical. Hopefully they're very skeptical about the way companies communicate with them. But I firmly believe that we need to teach this at a very young age. That if we had to teach young people how to, the importance of the 3 levels of government and voting and civics and writing, that they also now, because we're so saturated by media and information, we also need to teach critical thinking, ethics in how we communicate, because they can communicate. They can reach the entire world with a small film before they can even vote, right? So that's got incredible social consequences. So it's up to us to actually to guide them a little bit more in terms of how they do that. I think the demographic we're talking about, they don't really think much of Twitter either. Twitter has become much more of a marketing tool for older folks and large organizations, which is really surprising given how rebellious and instantaneous and efficient Twitter is. And I'm surprised that younger people haven't gravitated towards it. But I think it seems to me that they're still focused on text messaging and Facebook to a certain extent. Even Facebook is skewing older. So yeah, I mean, I think Twitter makes most sense if you actually are on your cell phone, or if you're sitting at your desk all the time. And people 25 and under aren't sitting at their desk all the time.